You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I probably should come up with a different intro at some point because I've been using the same for many years, but I just couldn't be fucked, to be honest with you, because you're not really here to listen to me. You're tuned in to listen to any one of the fabulous interview subjects that I've got prepared for you, and in this instance, it is Troy Sanders from Mastodon and Killer Be Killed, and I'm going to put this band in there too as the reference because we do have a chat about it. Thin Lizzy. He's also the current bassist in Thin Lizzy as well. The reason for the conversation, though, the catalyst is Killer Be Killed's new album for 2020. It'll be out on the 20th of November, and it is called Reluctant Hero. So here he is, Troy Sanders, bass player extraordinaire.
Hello.
Oh, g'day, Troy. Andy Mackay-Smith calling for our chat. How you going?
Hey, I'm good.
How's the? Am I the first of your calls, or have you been? You chatted to a few of us already.
Well, today you are the first of four.
How the calls been going overall?
It's great, man. I mean, anytime people want to speak to me or my bandmates about something that we're doing, it's very complimentary, so I'm always happy to want to talk to people that are interested in what we're doing. So I think it's great, and it always piles on the heaviest at the beginning of a touring cycle or preparing for an album's release. So I'm always happy to do it,
I'm hearing you, yeah. And look, you have been extremely productive in the last few years, to say the very least. I mean, this between your bands, mate, and some of the work you've done with Thin Lizzy and what's happening here with Killer Be Killed. Look, I've got to tell you, I've heard Deconstructing Self-Destruction, the song itself, and also Dream Gone Bad. I haven't got the album yet, so I've had to rely on those two. But look, I've got to say, on the evidence presented across those two cuts, as a 30-year-long fan of heavy metal, once you think you've heard it all, along comes a band such as you guys, and you just sort of expand the template just a little, And as I say, mate, as the band is notable because all of you, you've achieved success in other bands. But I guess my question after all of that is, with so many creative minds in the band, there are no egos. I can tell that. I'm a musician myself, so I can get when things are cohesive. But how on earth do you not tread on each other's toes to produce such wonderfully inventive heavy metal?
Very well said. Thank you.
No worries.
I think it was initially when Greg Puciato and Max Cavalera had the idea to create this band. It was intended with the premise that it would act in the same way that we all joined our very first band when we were like 16 years old. Meaning that we first and foremost enjoyed each other's friendship and had enough appreciation and respect for one another. Not go into it with much pressure on our shoulders, or we wanted a stress-free environment that resembled as much as possible to the very first band you were ever in. Jamming with friends, doing it for the right reasons, enjoying yourself, and trying to create things that make you happy. Very simple. I think that has very much stayed intact throughout our 6 or 7 year existence. So knowing that we're all encouraged to collaborate and to write and have input. There's no pressure on just one person to come up with the most of the riffs or the ideas of the song structures. There's not just one guy who's being pressured into writing a whole album worth of lyrics. Very, very teamwork, collaboration is what's going on. So thankfully, we all know how to not have an ego or an attitude in this band, because again, it's not the main band that drives us for year-long tours and for the bulk of our livelihood and our income and things like that. So we've stuck to the idea that, hey, man, let's make this enjoyable and fun. Otherwise, we don't really need to leave our house to do this, because we're fortunate to be very occupied with our, quote, main band, to not need to leave the house unless it's thoroughly enjoyable. So to answer your question, I think that it's just that mindset of let's have some fun with this and jam in a very stress-free environment, and the bottom line just being enjoyment.
I can hear
and
that.
Fortunately,
Yeah.
it worked. Yeah, with the first album, we said, hey, in theory, this sounds great. Let's give it a try. And also, those guys were like, yeah, and me, and all three of us are going to contribute vocals to every song. Like, yeah, that sounds great. Just because you have three well-known or distinct voices in the world of heavy metal or heavy rock doesn't mean that it's going to be a guaranteed success when you're doing all three of those vocals within each and every song on the album. But we went for it on album number 1, and listening back as we were doing it, we realized, like, hey, I think this is going to work. Thankfully, it did. And we just kind of kept that formula for this record as well. Go in there, let's write some stuff that we think is fun, as long as everyone else in the band enjoys it and likes it, feels good about it. And I think I think the natural progression and the authenticity of what we're doing and why we're doing it is transparent to, like you just mentioned, and to hopefully other people. Like, you don't have to love us, but if you do dig it, I think it's pretty pure and a wholesome, fun rock band.
Well, I think what you've done is you've unlocked. I mean, you with your various projects, you've done this very well anyway. But with Killer Be Killed specifically here, you haven't sacrificed any melody or heaviness, and we're getting to a point now where there's this beautiful blend between both. And you guys are a fantastic example of that. Same thing with I've got to tell you, mate, too, Greg's solo material, Child Soldier, Creator of God, that has just blown me away this year. It's not that I didn't think he had it in him, but holy shit. I first heard it, and my comments here alone, but I think he's everything Chino wishes that he could be. You know what I'm saying? He's just got this thing going on at the moment. It's rare form, put it that way, if you to use a football terminology. And I think he's carried that over with your good self to what you guys are doing here. So, you guys obviously, I don't imagine you live in the same city or even near each other. So how do you get together and decide, okay, this is the time we're now going to dedicate to Killer Be Killed?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. And thankfully everyone is as determined as I am to keep this band going, because Ben Koller and Greg Puciato live in Los Angeles. Max Cavalera lives in Phoenix, Arizona. I live on the Gulf of Mexico and Florida. So we're very, we're quite scattered across the United States. But in order to make a band like this happen, we realized, and still do understand, that we just need to live by the calendar. And we would, every time we were together, before we would leave one another, we would look at our calendars and find the time, whether it be 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, whatever, that we all had off simultaneously. And then we would pencil in, that's Killer Be Killed time. And sometimes that would be 6, 7, 8, 9 months away from the time that we were disbanding with what we were doing. So here's a rough timeline of what we did. We put an album out in 2014. We did our one and only brief travels across Australia for our only tour we ever did in 2015. We got together about once in 2016, once in 2017, once in 2018. We got together in 2019 and recorded the music. We got together earlier this year, 2020. We had about 7, 8, 9 days to write and record all the vocals. To the best of my knowledge, that's about as close to the reality. We got together, it was nearly just once a year. But that's cool. We knew it was going to take a long time. But I've said this, I've been saying this a lot this week, is that once we finished those few shows during the Soundwave 2015, there was never a question of, will there be another Killer Be Killed? It was just a matter of, when will there be another? So because we knew it in our hearts that we were going to continue. But this band ultimately took a back seat because Max is super busy with Soulfly and Cavalera Conspiracy. Greg was still very busy doing Dillinger Escape Plan touring. I'm very involved, fortunately, very busy with Mastodon. And Ben Koller is super busy with Converge. And then on top of that, I've recently counted 12 active bands that the four of us are in. So it's a wonderful issue to have when we're just relying on the calendar to align before we could ever get together again. So it's this perseverance that all four of us share, which is wonderful. Because if we truly had a weak link and there was someone that just didn't really want to do this, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Well, thank you to you all for keeping on doing it, because I think we're at a point, man, where heavy metal is so relevant at the moment, and there's just so many classic releases. This year, man, I've got to tell you, it's been a real I hate using these terms, sorry, but resurgence or what have you. But the new Benediction album has just been fantastic. There's what you guys are doing here, Greg. As I mentioned before, we're just entering into a period of time again where I just feel heavy metal is so relevant and so vital. But I guess after making that point, is you guys, I think the four of you have production credits in the past. So how did you settle on who was going to produce the album and help you guys sort of make it, polish it and give it that gnarly sound that it's got?
Well, we worked with Josh Wilbur on our first album, and that was recorded in 2013 or 2014. And we really enjoyed him as a person, his attitude, his energy, his perspective, and his capability of producing these wonderful sonic sounding records. And since then, he's done loads of records and has gotten much better over the years. So he was just the guy we wanted to work with. Ben had never worked with him, but Greg, Max, and I were all in favor of working with Josh again, because it's like, you find the right formula. Why, the argument of, don't fix it. If it's not broke, don't fix it. We kind of knew who he was interested in doing the record with us, and we were interested with him. So it was just a simple match. And he understands us as people. Again, we'll go out after all day long. Like, we'll go out to dinner with him, so we're not like, no one's sick of being with him in a room, and we just enjoy his presence. And when it comes to recording, he's just very energetic, and he's a great. I call him the fifth member of the band when we're in there working together, because if we're at a standstill and two guys like this idea and two guys like that idea, usually he'll be the tiebreaker and he'll say, I like this idea because, and we'll say, hey, that's cool, I respect that. So he's all around good guy, and the record sounds just like we hoped it would. Big and badass. Yeah.
Yeah. Something else he's managed to do then, and something I've always admired about yourself, because I'm a bass player, is that another thing you unlocked was how to sing beautifully but perform these killer Bob Daisley style bass lines that you've threaded throughout Mastodon and even here on Killer Be Killed, mate. So I guess it might be a difficult question for you to ask, but I'll go there. Man, when did you work out that you could do that? Because it's a rare skill that you do have.
Thanks, man. It's slowly just become a thing. In the early days of Mastodon, near 20 years ago, we actually had a singer, like the vocalist. 2 months into our existence, I had booked a DIY tour up the States and into Canada and back. Well, right away, our singer wasn't in a good headspace, and he needed to back out of the band. Well, I had just done all this work to build this tour, so we decided to go on it anyway, just because we were a brand new band and nobody knew who we were anyway. So my guitar player, Brent, and I in Mastodon, we just started stepping up to the mic and slowly trying to find ways to bark, shout, do whatever to kind of fill the void of needing vocalists. Well, slowly but surely over 20 years, it's just that has just grown and just practiced that a lot, toured a lot, without ever wanting to audition a singer or go through all that again. So it just very slowly and naturally became what it is. But it took like 10 years to realize that, watching live clips back of myself, I realized that I was, it's one thing to do it in a studio, but it's a different thing to do it live. And I realized that I was my weakest, my weakest input with the band was definitely live vocals. So over the past 10 years, I've started to pay more attention and focus on that, because we've always been players first, and vocals have kind of taken the back seat as far as how serious we take it. But over the past 10 years, I've started to take it more and more seriously, trying to maintain a healthy body and voice while we're touring. And so it's taken me like 20 years to get to where I am, and I'm very confident now in going out there and trying, and doing the show and playing bass and doing vocals at the same time. But it's taken me a long time, and I didn't really take it seriously or think much of it until I just started seeing a bunch of YouTube clips, 10 years ago, and realizing that I had a lot of work to do personally. So
Yeah, that's the beauty of this day and age, isn't it? I know as a muso sometimes you think you've got it down pat, and then you look back at video performances of yourself and think, oh shit.
oh man, it's
Done.
cringeworthy. Yeah, yeah.
But
So
look, the other thing too is I think you've got a great relationship with Scotty and Thin Lizzy, and I had a chat to him a couple of years back with Black Star Riders, and I've got to say I admire him tremendously, and he's just such a nice fella. And I was reminiscing, it was the year of my birth, 1978, but they played on the Thin Lizzy played on the steps of the Sydney Opera House, and it was so cool to get his feedback on that because he's so still in the moment, and I draw so much inspiration from that, but all performances really. But looking at him, and they had 120,000 people or something like that. Like people don't realise, and you've been through this too, Troy. Like it's up to you to entertain that volume of people. There's down to 4 or 5 people on stage to sort of basically keep people happy, and maybe potentially, not saying it'll end up in a riot, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's your job to keep everybody entertained and happy and stuff. So. Mate, with the Thin Lizzy stuff, is that something that, like, have yourself and Scott, have you got plans to continue that?
well, they have loose plans to continue, and last year doing those few shows with Thin Lizzy was, you know, without a doubt, one of the, you know, one of the top most special moments of my entire life. You know, the word surreal. I want to use the word surreal, but with a stronger version of that word. It was just incredible, unbelievable, and I couldn't believe that I had the opportunity to do that. When we were done with those shows, Scott gave me a big hug and just thanked me so much. And he said, when we get the Thin Lizzy going back again, you know, I'd like you to be a part of it still if you're interested. And I said, absolutely. You say the word. You know, this is wonderful. It's so beautiful. And getting to know his perspective, and you're right, he's a very, very humble, sweet, lovable, laughing guy, just wants to have a good time. He's an incredible person. And the way he was telling me how he likes to keep Thin Lizzy alive was very, very respectable. And if I could pull one moment to share with the few shows that I did with him last summer, was I would sit back and like on stage watching thousands of people sing words or, you know, sing along with the band and just have a smile on their face for an entire hour.
Yes.
And with, you know, I know a lot of times people can question, like, you know, hey, without Freddie Mercury, there's no Queen. Without Dave Lombardo, there's no Slayer. You know, without no Phil Lynott, there's no Thin Lizzy, et cetera, et cetera. You're welcome to have those opinions, and you don't have to support the bands when they still go out and continue to tour. Mm-hmm. That's what you can do, is just stay at home. But for anyone that's ever questioning the motives of people why they want to continue a band when the most notable figure is not with them anymore, it became so clear and so obvious to me watching thousands of faces smile and sing and be happy and just loving life for the whole hour and a half long set. That was more proof than anyone would ever need ever to ever question anyone's reason for carrying on an artistic adventure or a band, anything along those lines. And and I remember telling Scott, I said, not even if I wasn't in the band, I encourage you to keep the band going more than just every few years doing some shows. You know, the legend and the legacy of Thin Lizzy should be shared with people, and people will come. They love to sing along with the band and enjoy that live experience. So, man, it was just the proof was beyond obvious, and
yeah, that's
so
awesome,
damn
mate.
cool.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
I'd love to see him bring it down here actually once all this bloody COVID bullshit is done. Hopefully, you're a part of that. It'd be just great to be in the crowd and watch some of that stuff. Because I took me years as a bass player to sort of understand and I'm going to use the word genius of Phil Lynott. It truly did, but you know, it's an enduring legacy, and I think the fact that you can, and you're an extremely competent bassist and vocalist, as I've already mentioned, and I mean that's proof that people want to hear it, is that it attracts musicians like you, mate, and exactly like what you're saying. I've played some Thin Lizzy stuff, and man, it's just in my covers bands, and man, I just see people react differently. It's a bit like the Eagles stuff too, man. People just react. They stop what they're doing. So they stop looking at their bloody phones, and they stare, and then they just sort of get to the chorus, and then they might, you know, put their arm around somebody You know what I mean. It has that powerful
Yeah,
effect.
yeah, yeah. It's amazing. It's magical, and that's the proof of the magic of music on moments like that.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, I better let you go to the next one. So, look, before I do though, look, congratulations first and foremost on the album. But, mate, just in general, man, I mean, you're representing us bass players so beautifully up there on stage, and what you're doing here with Killer Be Killed, Mastodon, and Thin Lizzy, mate. Just please keep on doing what you're doing, because I've said this a few times in the last few weeks, man. You're speaking to so many, and I'm going to use the word legends. Here we go, because mate, what you're doing is extremely important, man. It gives people out there. It makes us a bit happier during these fairly strange times.
That's awesome. I have no intention but to keep moving forward and trying to please myself in an environment and with a platform that's able to connect with people all over the world. It's an incredible. I'm so glad I made this choice in life. To be able to talk to people like you and share the same understanding of music and culture and appreciation. It's great. It's amazing. So thank you.
Thanks, mate. Beautiful. All right. Well, hopefully we see you down here soon. But God bless otherwise, mate, and good luck with everything.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks, Troy. Cheers.
All right. Bye-bye. All right.
Bye. Okay, Malakas, that's it. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. That interview subject was bass player and singer extraordinaire. I should have said singer in the intro. I just said bass player, but the man can certainly sing. Troy Sanders is his name. He's from Mastodon and Killer Be Killed. Thanks for tuning in.